Hi, I'm Jeremy Barnes. I'm the chef here at Frog Belly Farm. It's a family-owned biodynamic farm just north of Boulder. Today we're going to be making some goat Gouda, which is one of the cheeses that we make here. We make a lot of raw cheeses for the community, typically out of the extra milk that we have, but sometimes we do it just for fun. Here we make goat Gouda, cow Gouda, we make Parmesan. We've invented something that we call Caprino Romano, which is a goat milk version of Pecorino Romano. We do goat and cow feta, we do ricotta, and we just really play around, and we just love to make cheese. The first step, obviously, to making cheese is the milk. It's very important that the quality of your milk is as high and as pure as you can get it. We have the obvious benefit here at Frog Belly Farm of milking our own goats, so we can actually use the milk before it even gets cold out of the animal. So normally here at the farm we will save up milk until we have nearly 40 gallons per batch, so we'll do these really large batches of cheese. Today though we're going to keep it kind of simple. We're just going to do it with 2 gallons, which most of the time when you find a recipe in a book or online or something, they usually gear it around 2 gallons. I don't know why that is, it's just kind of the way it is. So the first step is to put the milk into the pot. I found that if you pour it against the back of the pot, you get less splashing. So what we do is we get the milk in. You want to keep your heat pretty low, and you want to make sure you've got a thick bottom pan just to distribute the heat a little bit better. So we'll turn on the heat, and we'll bring this to, for a goat feta, we'll bring this to 96 degrees. Then after that, we'll inoculate it with mesophilic culture. Mesophilic culture is a culture strains of bacteria that operate better under 102 degrees. For different cheeses like a Parmesan or a Pecorino Romano, we would use a thermophilic culture because they go to a much higher temperature. But for today we'll be using mesophilic culture and obviously rennet. So once we've got our milk up to temperature, we put, for the 2 gallons of milk we'll use a 1/4 teaspoon of the culture. I use a whisk, it's my primary cheese making tool. And you want to make sure that your culture is spread throughout the milk. Very spread throughout the milk, otherwise things just don't culture correctly. Now a lot of cheeses, what you'll do is when you've cultured it, you'll let it sit at temperature for a little while to build up the flavor, but with a Gouda, what you do is you put your culture and your rennet in at just about the same time. So then we do a 1/2 teaspoon of rennet, 1 2/4, and with the rennet it's extremely important to mix it up really well. Sometimes people even put their rennet into a 1/4 cup of cool water just to make sure it disperses correctly. But I found that just a simple mixing, maybe stir it for 2 or 3 minutes, make sure everything is really dispersed. And then, once we've inoculated, I will put a cover on it and we'll let that sit for 75 minutes. So once our curds have sat at 100 degrees for a little while, we've got this nice granulation. I use all stainless steel equipment just to keep acidification from taking over. We take the curds out of the whey, and the whey can be used for lots of other things afterwards. We tend to just feed it to our animals, especially the young. It's extremely probiotic and it's really good for them. We strain our curds. Once you've got your curds out of the whey, you want to work it kind of quick because the more they cool, the harder they are to work. This is where it really starts to come together and look like cheese. If you look over here, we use a couple of different cheese molds. There's a stainless steel one that works pretty well. It's not as consistent as I would like, and they're extremely expensive. This is a plastic mold called a tome mold that we've just purchased, and I like these quite a bit. This, however, is my favorite mold, and just looking at different products around, I decided instead of spending the hundreds of dollars that was necessary, you can see I just cut the bottom off of a 5-gallon restaurant bucket, drilled about 150 holes in it, a piece of mesh, and this actually makes for one of the better molds I've ever used, and they come in at about $6 a piece. Extremely useful. So this next step is really where a lot of it all happens, and this is called stitching your cheese. I use an organic muslin, And then you take your curds and you want to put them into the mold like this. And it's really important to work it, to break it all up into as fine a pieces as possible. That will avoid bubbles and make for a more consistent and smooth cheese. So this is called stitching. So you break it up into fine pieces. Give it a lot of pressure. Really press it in there. Take your muslin, fold it over in every direction that you can. You want to make for a nice cheese. The more of this folded up stuff you have, the less consistent it's going to be. You take it once you've got it all stitched into your mold, like this, and then I put a pressure plate on it. And then there are a lot of fancy different cheese presses that I've found that aren't necessarily as effective as they could be. So from here, what I would do is I'll just put a weight on this. Just let it sit for 4 hours. You flip your cheese over in the mold, and then you press it for another 4 hours. Flip it one more time, and then you keep it under about 10 to 20 pounds of pressure for about 24 hours. Once we've got the cheese pressed, we'll then put it into a brine solution for another 24 hours, and that's where the salt comes in. After we've got it brined, then we'll take it back out, set it on this rack, and allow it to dry for another 48 hours. And then I put it into my cheese storage for up to 5-10 months for a Gouda. And then eventually you get this beautiful cheese. And voila, goat Gouda. So thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed making cheese with us. Thank you.